AT&T Fiber surpasses 30 million serviceable locations. Lumen Technologies announces an RDOF default. U.S. Signal prepares the deployment of ultra-dense fiber. And solar flares reducing the lifespan of Starlink satellites. Those stories and more on This Week in the Broadband universe. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Craig Corbin. Lumen Technologies has relinquished control of more than 41,000 rural digital opportunity fund locations made up of 153 census block groups in 8 states. Lumen notified the FCC of the move to return all CBGs where it was awarded RDOF funding in Washington, Oregon, Nebraska, Montana, Minnesota, Idaho, Florida, and Colorado. Lumen provided no reason for relinquishing the locations and acknowledged that it may be subject to applicable non-compliance rules. Grand Rapids, Michigan-based U.S. Signal this week announcing a $200 million project to deploy more than 1,000 miles of new ultra-dense fiber and conduit over key U.S. corridors. The company will also enhance its Detroit Metro and Des Moines data centers. 3 megawatts of power capacity will be added at the Detroit Metro data center, 6 megawatts for the Des Moines facility. Deployment of ultra-dense fiber will enhance micro-edge data centers for fiber regeneration and co-location with edge-to-core performance. $1.1 billion in funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting would be cut as part of the rescission package approved by the U.S. House of Representatives. Of note, 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans did not vote on the measure. The bill now moves on to the U.S. Senate, where it is expected to pass. AT&T has reached the halfway mark toward their goal of attaining 60 million fiber passings nationwide. Gains to the company's regional fiber networks and a joint venture with Gigapower were cited as primary drivers of growth. AT&T has engaged in commercial open access agreements, public-private partnerships, and recently announced plans to acquire virtually all of Lumen's mass markets fiber business. That deal expected to close during the first half of 2026 and is subject to regulatory approval. Recently departed FCC Commissioner Nathan Symington wasted no time in criticizing FCC Commission Chairman Brendan Carr for his handling of EchoStar. In May, the FCC opened 3 proceedings on the satellite provider, one on 5G build-out compliance, a second on the use of its 2 gigahertz spectrum licenses, and a third proceeding into sharing 2 gigahertz between EchoStar's terrestrial uses and satellite services. In an op-ed for Real Clear Policy, Symington says the FCC threatens such severe sanctions that they put EchoStar's financial viability in question and threaten to kill the company. Solar activity making life in low Earth orbit a less hospitable locale for satellites. When looking at the re-entry patterns of 523 Starlink satellites placed into orbit between 2020 and 2025, researchers found that solar storms, bursts of energy, and magnetic activity from the sun reduce the time they spend in orbit and making the satellites re-enter Earth's atmosphere sooner than expected. The sun reaching the peak of its 11-year cycle of activity, or solar cycle. The current cycle, solar cycle 25, has been more intense than the previous cycle. Solar activity significantly increases drag and air resistance on satellites, which decays their orbit and brings them back into Earth's atmosphere much more quickly. Just in time for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, 4 technology leaders have been tapped to head up the Army's Executive Innovation Corps. The new initiative, called Detachment 201, is designed to fuse cutting-edge tech expertise with military innovation. Detachment 201 is an effort to recruit senior tech executives to serve part-time in the Army Reserve as senior advisors, working on targeted projects to help guide rapid and scalable tech solutions to complex problems. The 4 new Army Reserve Lieutenant Colonels, Shyam Sankas, CTO for Palantir, Andrew Bosworth, CTO of Meta, Kevin Wheel, the Chief Product Officer of OpenAI, and Bob McGrew, advisor at Thinking Machines Lab and former Chief Research Officer for OpenAI. How much is control of streaming provider Hulu worth? Well, the Walt Disney Company has agreed to pay $438.7 billion for Comcast's 33% stake in the streamer. Disney paid $8.6 billion for a minority stake back in 2023, but Comcast had asked for $5 billion more, which sent the issue into arbitration over the appraised value. Disney has had operating control of Hulu since it acquired 21st Century Fox. The deal, which is expected to wrap up in July, will give Disney more flexibility in packaging its various streaming services, including the upcoming ESPN direct-to-consumer streaming service. And finally, any guesses on just how much U.S. consumers spend annually on cable and internet? According to a new study by Doxo, total tab is $164 billion in total, or an average of $1,063 per household. That's roughly 4% of all household bills. The top 5 states with the highest cable and internet bills: Delaware, $157 per month, followed by Rhode Island, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Alaska. The highest cable and internet bills by city: Pittsburgh, number 1, at $221. Ouch. Followed by Milwaukee, Denver, Portland, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, thanks for watching. See you next week on This Week in the Broadband Universe.